Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter, and I have been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for On SI every single day since August 2019, and we're continuing to march through yet another offseason together. All right, folks, welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. Today we are talking about some comments Liam Coen made from the NFL's annual league meetings in Phoenix that have me thinking. I am wondering if the Jaguars want to invest more in the offensive line than maybe we anticipate. The reason I say that is, let's just set the table. First of all, why I don't think many people are anticipating or mocking interior or offensive tackles, any offensive linemen to the Jaguars at 56. They're returning every single guy from a year ago. They are bringing back literally the entire offensive line. That's not something that happens often. Every guy is still under contract. Every guy is still obviously coming back in terms of, what their roles were last year. And yeah, there are going to be some differences. There will be differences in terms of competition. I expect Wyatt Milam to push for a starting spot somewhere. They'll obviously might need Walker Little, depending on a timeline for Cole Van Lanen. But to me, it's very clear after listening to Liam that the Jaguars, they took it seriously, their run game last year, and how it didn't perform as well over the second half of the season. Now, the Jaguars could say we went 13-4 with an inefficient run game. What's the big deal? We've proven we know we can win with our run game. Just as it is, if it gets better, great. And if not, we're still capable of winning, a large volume of games. They could say that. That's what all the Jaguars teams probably would have said. I can hear it in my head now. I legitimately can. But I think that for the Jaguars to improve year over year, and for them to not fall in the same trap of, we were good last year, let's do the same exact thing and have it blow up in our faces. Because we've seen that happen to them quite a few times over the years. Saw it happen after the 2017 run. We saw it happen after the 2022 run. So I believe that the Jaguars, it is important to them not to have this happen again. Not to let the opportunity slip from them that they have right now. But to make sure that doesn't happen, the Jaguars will obviously need certain assurances. And I think one of those has to be the running game. I think one of those has to be how much better can the running game be after a season. And, here's a quote that stuck out to me. He was asked about the running back room. And he said, I think the combination of Tutin, LeQuint, Chris Rodriguez, as it stands, without any more additions, DJ Dallas competing in there. I look at personally at rushing yards over expected and yards after contact is what I give a crap about personally. Because it's like, what are you doing outside of what we're blocking? And what does that look like? Because I can't coach that. Guys that get more than what's there, I can't coach that. The guys that break tackles at a high level, whether it's via Reggie Bush, whatever, it's with stiff arms, jumping over them, running through them. I don't care how you do it. I just care that you do it because I can't coach it. And so when you have and do things that I can't coach on a consistent level, To me, that's important for players because it's like, I can't coach you to do that. If the run is blocked for 8 yards and get 8 yards, well, it's kind of like, I need more. I want to see more. So, yeah, we may not get every single aspect of everything Travis Etienne was able to do for us in every single way and run, pass, protection, whatever it is. But I got to believe we can run the ball effectively next year with the guys that we have. I mean, that to me is Coen, point blank saying, I believe we can be better than we were a year ago. I mean, just for a frame of reference, rushing yards over expected. Just overall in the NFL, on a per-touch basis. Now, this is amongst qualified rushers. Last year, rushing yards over expected. So this is amongst 48 running backs. Chris Rodriguez, 14th in the NFL. Travis Etienne, 32nd. So I will give Etienne credit. He did rank higher in this metric than Bashal Tootin did. Yards after contact per attempt. Chris Rodriguez was second in the NFL, tied with Derrick Henry, behind Devon Achane, ahead of Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, guys like that, James Cook. All guys who ranked highly in the stat. Travis Etienne was 29th. He was, tied with Nick Chubb, just ahead of Ashton Genty and Rashad White. Now, I don't think a lot of that necessarily is something that you can always pin on, one singular guy. I mean, yards at the contact last year was something, for example, they weren't able to get out of Christian McCaffrey in San Francisco. But with that said, I mean, let's look at, by team rates, by rushing yards over expectations. The Jaguars last year finished 26th. Basically, the Jaguars, I mean, there were only 5 teams that finished negative. The Chiefs were 0. And then there's the Jags tied, with the Arizona Cardinals and the Tennessee Titans. Not great efficiency. They were essentially getting exactly what the offensive line was blocking. Yards after contact per attempt. The Jaguars ranked 21st. Just barely ahead of the Raiders. So I think, if they want to be a team that takes their running game to the next level, then, yeah, they need more out of the running backs, obviously. Jaguars were not an efficient rushing team last year, largely because of the second half of the season. I'm sure, if you broke this up by the first season or two, the first week or two, let's just go look at week 1. Jaguars in week 1. In terms of yards after contact, 7th. Fantastic. First in rushing yards over expectation. That was just in week 1. You go to week 2. The Jaguars, ranked pretty highly again in yards after contact and, rushing yards over expectation. It was solid, but let's go to, let's say, week 17 when Jaguars, when the running game was kind of taking, a slide, 25th in yards over expectation. So my thought is, Coen believes clearly they have the running backs. Does he think they need more along the offensive line? Tony Boselli wouldn't mind adding more offensive linemen. James Gladstone and Liam Coen have said multiple times since they got hired that ensuring they never reach like a Mayday scenario, a true doomsday scenario along the offensive line is critical for them because they both lived it with the Rams. An offensive lineman at 56, is it that crazy? I'll say this. I think an offensive lineman, just based on, the Jaguars in general, their needs, their trends, whatever. I think an offensive lineman at 56 makes more sense than, say, a linebacker. The question is, though, what offensive linemen are going to be there at number 56? Chase Bazantes, Texas A&M is 47th on the consensus board. I think he'd be a good pick there, obviously. But after that, Jennings Dunker, he's 58th on the consensus board. Sam Hecht, He's 66th on the consensus board. Again, these are mostly, interior guys. Caleb Tiernan, 74th on a consensus board. It's a fair question of, these offensive tackles. So just on the consensus board, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 offensive tackles in the top 38. From 38 to 73, there are 0. It is a super heavy, offensive tackle class. In terms of interior linemen, you have other guys, obviously. Keelan Rutledge, Logan Jones, Connor Liu, Jake Slaughter, maybe. You have a lot more guys interior that are kind of in that range. But it's definitely something, in my opinion, for us to watch as we move towards April.